You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey, everybody.
Anyways, on the drive here, it was really interesting. And oh, we started.
No, Jeff, It started. We're live. We're on the air.
Yeah, oops. We were chit-chatting right there before everything came on. Yeah.
Hey, so welcome to The Bible Guys. My name is Chris. This is Jeff.
This guy.
And today we are continuing in the book of Proverbs.
Proverbs, yes.
Written by King Solomon, who we know is David's son, who is now king, who is somehow, well, not somehow, we know how, attained the most wisdom that any man will ever have, any human, in any lifetime.
Apart from Jesus.
Yeah, I guess that is true. He's a human God.
Yes.
The man God.
That's right. The God man.
I guess it's God man, yeah. The man God, God man. Mm-hmm. Well, he's 100%. So.
Absolutely. That's right. But other than Jesus, Solomon. Right there.
Yeah, and what's amazing is nobody will ever be as wise as Solomon, according to God.
That's right.
So today, before we get into that, we started with a segment that we have that is called Mailbags. And this is actually written in by Paul K.
Paul K. Hi, Paul K.
Yeah, there it is. If you had to choose a Bible character besides Jesus to hang out with for a day, who would it be and why?
Oh,
this is actually a tough one. Have you ever, you've been asked this before, haven't you?
Yeah, probably. I think so.
Yeah. And I think I choose somebody different every time.
Okay. Probably me too then.
Yeah.
I think so.
But there's so much to choose from, but there's always a clear choice for me. So I'll skip back and forth often, but obviously my choice is the Apostle Paul.
Really?
Yeah, it always is.
Always?
Yeah.
Why?
He's sort of my hero besides Jesus in the Bible.
Hero?
Yeah.
Big fan?
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
Hey, Paul, I read some of your books. Like them. Big fan.
The way that you captured the reader all the way through. The way that you scorned the church. So
the Apostle Paul.
Yeah, I'd say the Apostle Paul.
Wow.
He is, an incredible man with incredible courage, incredible sacrifice. He had such a great influence on the world that we live in today, the Western world, right? I mean, you can connect the dots all the way back to the Apostle Paul. Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons why you and I are sitting in this podcast studio today.
It's true.
It is true.
It is true. Yeah. So, man, that's a good choice. Good choice. So now that he's off the table, I think he's very intellectual.
Did I take your choice?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think he's very intellectual. I think he had an outrageous amount of courage, right? The grit that Paul had to just keep going is really impressive. I thought about this one. I think, believe it or not, I think Peter would be one that I'd be super intrigued by. He's so spontaneous and off the cuff and just kind of running full steam ahead without always thinking. Just seems like, I bet he was a fun guy. I bet he had a hot head a little bit, it seemed like, but I think he would have been a fun person to hang out with. So him or David. I think David would be an interesting guy. Again, same thing. He's a warrior poet. He runs amok sometimes, but he really wants to honor God. And yeah, I think those two guys would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Who would you not want to hang out with?
Ooh, gee whiz, what a question. Who would I not? Anybody in the Bible I would not want to hang out with.
Yeah.
Jeremiah.
Yeah, the weeping prophet.
Yes.
Yeah, just always sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, the poor guy, I'm sure he would tell stories.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to hear those stories.
Yeah.
Right? And
that
then
might be
there
one.
I was all by myself.
Yeah,
for 1,000 years. Not 1,000, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
seems like it when you read it.
I don't think I'd want to hang out with Adam unless he got some clothes on.
Well,
that would be uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you really going to feel that though in heaven? I'm assuming it's in heaven.
I don't know. They have robes in heaven.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever thought about this?
I don't know. It didn't say in heaven.
You're right.
Paul K. didn't put the heaven caveat there. Yeah, just hang out for the day.
Yeah, there's the lawyer in your brain. But what I'm saying is, have you ever thought about this? So side topic. If it is in heaven, if not, side topic. Like, you won't feel anything negative in heaven. Like, for instance, my good buddy Sean in the mailroom at Baptist Bible College told me one time, he said, don't you think in heaven, after a couple billion years passes, don't you think you get bored? And he was like dead serious, like, you're going to get bored. And I said, I'm pretty sure boredom is an impossibility in heaven. Isn't that connected to like negativity, sin, the fall? Isn't that connected to our sinful human nature? So what if boredom is an absolute impossibility? Have you ever thought about that?
Whether or not I can get bored in heaven?
Yes. Actually,
I almost fell asleep in that question. So I and it's a little heaven sitting here with you.
Oh, wow.
Just a little bit.
You don't want to answer the question?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I think that boredom is a part of the fall. Boredom is the absence of doing something in the moment. Is it bad?
But
is boredom bad?
It's super negative.
Is it?
Isn't it? Does it make you feel sad? I
don't know.
You think sadness can be? It says heaven's no more sorrow.
If you're always only euphoric, is there actual euphoria then?
But what if
there has to be ups and downs in order to have real happiness?
True, but what if the sadness were an impossibility, and then therefore it was
sadness? Yes, yeah.
Well, doesn't boredom lead to sadness?
Or it leads me to go do something interesting.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so maybe not boredom.
I don't know. I'm not arguing that point against it. I'm just not embracing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But this one, I would hang out with Peter or David. You'd hang out with Paul or who? Who would be your second choice?
Oh, you want me to do a second choice?
Do you have a second choice?
1A, 1B. Yeah, I think it'd be. Oh, Peter and David are great.
Those are good ones.
Maybe Elijah.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
Yeah. He's a pretty rough guy.
Yeah.
Right. He's the wilderness guy. He's the take on the world guy.
Stand up to the king guy.
guy.
Yeah.
I can run faster than a chariot guy.
Yeah. Even God was like, he's riding a fiery chariot home. There's no other more appropriate. Okay. Good one. Mm-hmm. Good call. Well, hey, thank you, Paul K.
Yes.
Super cool. And I'm sure next time we'll give different answers, but this time that's who's on our mind today.
I have a tendency to skip around.
If it was today, that's who we'd hang out with. But that being said, talking about today and hanging out with people, we're hanging out with the wisest guy in the Bible.
Yes, today. We are hanging out with him.
Yes.
Every time we open the book of Proverbs, it's like having a cup of coffee with Solomon.
I can't stand coffee.
It's like having a cup of Mountain Dew with Solomon.
I'm not a Mountain Dew fan.
It's like having a cup of Coke Zero with Solomon.
There you go. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready now. I like tea. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Proverbs chapter 17 is where we're at. And it seems like what we're doing is we're just plowing through from 10 to 22, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
This big chunk where it's just slogan after slogan after slogan, one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. So each of these things, each sentence is its own idea, essentially. He says, better a dry crust eaten in peace than a house filled with feasting and conflict. That's appropriate, especially considering lots of people just came past Thanksgiving.
Right.
A wise servant will rule over the master's disgraceful son and will share the inheritance of the master's children. Fire tests the purity of silver and gold, but the Lord tests the heart. Wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip, and liars pay close attention to slander. Those who mock the poor insult their maker. Those who rejoice at the misfortune of others will be punished. Grandchildren are the crowning glory of the aged. Parents are the pride of their children. Eloquent words are not fitting for a fool, even less are lies fitting for a ruler. A bribe is like a lucky charm. Whoever gives one will prosper. Love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. A single rebuke does more for a person of understanding than 100 lashes on the back of a fool. Evil people are eager for rebellion, but they will be severely punished. It is safer to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than to confront a fool caught in foolishness.
Wow.
If you repay good with evil, evil will never leave your house. Starting a quarrel is like opening a floodgate, so stop before a dispute breaks out. Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, both are detestable to the Lord. It is senseless to pay tuition to educate a fool, since he has no heart for learning. A friend is always loyal, and a brother is born to help in time of need. It's poor judgment to guarantee another person's debt or put up security for a friend. Anyone who loves to quarrel loves sin. Anyone who trusts in high walls invites disaster. The crooked heart will not prosper, and the lying tongue tumbles into trouble. It is painful to be the parent of a fool. There is no joy for the father of a rebel. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. The wicked take secret bribes to pervert the course of justice. Sensible people keep their eyes glued on wisdom, but a fool's eyes wander to the ends of the earth. Foolish children bring grief to their father and bitterness to the one who gave them birth. It is wrong to punish the godly for being good or to flog leaders for being honest. A truly wise person uses few words. A person with understanding is even-tempered. Even fools are thought wise when they keep silent. With their mouths shut, they seem intelligent.
That's a good one, isn't it?
I love that one.
They seem intelligent.
Yeah. It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear wise than open your mouth and prove otherwise.
Yeah, right. It is safer to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than to confront a fool caught in foolishness. And you know what it is?
It's such a cool one.
It's think about back in those days, it is probably not uncommon to come across bears, right? They had more reason to be out in the wilderness, hunting for food, watching sheep, right? Bears, bear would often, look for sheep and take them out, right? In the herd. And so, people were actually, you and me, have you ever encountered a live bear in a cave somewhere?
Yes.
No, you haven't.
I've come across bears 4 times out hunting. Yeah.
Black bears?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know why, but
So black bears are meaner than grizzly bears.
Are they really?
Yeah. So a grizzly bear, if you ball up and don't fight it, a grizzly bear will get bored with you unless it's going to eat you. Whereas a black bear doesn't want to engage with you, but when a black bear engages with you, it doesn't stop. So you just have to keep fighting. Yeah. So grizzly bear, stop fighting. It'll throw you around a little bit and hopefully you live. A black bear just keeps coming at you once it comes.
I was told with a black bear, you act big and go.
Yeah, because they're not as big, right? They're one of the bears I came up on. She stood up and she had cubs with her, and she was off maybe about 150 yards, 200 yards away. I was in a tree stand, and it was coming towards lunch, and she stood up and she just looked, because they can smell like in 3D. Bears can.
Wow.
So they can smell everything. And so she knew I was there way before I knew she was there. And probably that's why she cut out around that field. But then she gets straight out in front of me, and then she stood up and just kind of looked at me for a minute like that, and then walked out on the logging trail I had to walk out on to go back to meet my brother and the other guys we were hunting with. And so that was a little intimidating, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then other times I've had them come in. I've had some young ones, but she was probably as tall as I am when she stood up, maybe a little taller.
Yeah.
So probably 300 and something pounds. That's a pretty big bear.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4 times out in the woods, I've come across different bears. Usually they're smaller, but that was a big one.
Okay. So a person who may not hunt like myself.
Yeah. Right. City slickers.
City slickers would have no reason to come across a bear. But the idea of coming across a bear who just got robbed of her cubs.
Yeah. Oh, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and so he's going out of his way to say, imagine the most dangerous situation. Is there any more of a dangerous situation?
I can't imagine.
Right?
Well, I mean, that's a known phrase, right?
Yeah.
As far as anger goes, she's like a mama bear. That's a phrase, right? Or a bear robbed of her cubs, or don't get between a mother and her cubs, right? That kind of idea.
Right.
You just know she's going to fight you.
Right. Right. Yeah, and you're in trouble.
Yeah. And so that idea of trying to correct a fool, they're just going to come after you. Sometimes it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the danger of it too. So Solomon is
going to hurt.
Right, it's going to hurt you, right? And Solomon is warning against the foolishness. And so it's not just that a fool is a fool in terms of observation. Oh yeah, they're such a fool. It is actually what he's trying to say is, no, a fool is somebody you want to avoid in your life.
Yeah.
Because they will hurt you.
Right. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I actually was thinking about the one that said educating a fool. Where was that one at?
Don't pay tuition.
Yes, don't pay tuition. Where's that at?
Yeah, verse 16. It's senseless to pay tuition to educate a fool, since he has no heart for learning.
Yeah, that is something, isn't it? Just to I think about all the people in your life that you have, either talked with or tried to reason with, and you actually think to yourself, man, it is a hopeless conversation.
Yeah, if they don't have a heart for learning,
right,
there's not anything you can really do.
Yeah. And so let's talk about teachability.
Good call.
Don't you think that one of the greatest
abilities
is teachability?
100%.
Yeah. And, so one of the things that we do is we try at Heritage Church to bring along people of the next generation on staff, right? So there are people who, have less experience, and they're younger, and they don't know what they don't know sometimes. And so you bring them along and you say, okay, so, hey, here's my opinion. And one of the favorite phrases that I have, which I totally stole from Andy Stanley when he talks about, mentoring the younger generation, is he says, it's not my responsibility to fill their cup, but it is always my responsibility to empty mine. Isn't that great? And so it's my job to completely empty my cup and to, disciple or mentor or train or teach, and regardless of whether they're going to, take my advice or like it or not like it, that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is just to do so. And but I got to tell you, I've done it for a long time, and teachability is the number one thing that you look for in this situation.
I think that so that's one of the things we look for in hiring, right? As we hire. So obviously availability, somebody who has the sense of, I look for people that say, hey, whatever it takes, as opposed to people who want a really clear understanding of, well, that's not my job, or I'm it's after 5 now, kind of an idea. Then usually, so availability is a really big one for us. We're looking for people who are just like, whatever it takes, I'm all in on it, right? So that's one, as opposed to somebody counting minutes and paying super close attention to their job description or whatever. So that'd be one. The other one would be likability. I think is super important. Just chemistry in the office. Are they like the rest of the people? Are we going to have enjoyable time together? I think that's important. But then I think the most important one for somebody to be able to thrive, those two are important because they reflect more your character. This one, this teachability idea, it really is, it determines the ceiling, right? For that person. Somebody who's super curious and teachable, I think you have a tremendous amount of headroom above them from where you hire to the top. But people who don't seem particularly curious, they're not wondering why do we do what we do or how things work or all that kind of stuff. Typically, and then they're not looking for new information, new ideas. They typically get kind of, they very quickly will get into a rut, and then they're more worker bees than they are the kind of, massive contributors. They're going to, be a force multiplier to change an organization, move an organization forward. So yeah, teachability would be, I think, is one of the most important things. Yeah. And somebody who's not teachable, I think you have to offload them quickly.
Yes. And doesn't Paul say in the New Testament, he says he's going to teach Timothy to teach others, to train others. What is that called?
Yeah, 2 Timothy 2:2. Yeah. So Paul says that I taught you, Timothy, in front of all these other witnesses, these other godly people,
to teach faithful men,
to teach it to faithful men who will teach others also. Yeah.
And so it's the idea of like passing it down, right? Passing the baton, so to speak. And I tell you what, if you've not ever been in a situation where you have asked somebody to be a mentor, you don't even necessarily have to make it formalized. You don't have to say, "Will you be my mentor?" Right? Yeah. But you can glean off of that person, and you can sort of naturally, organically fall into this mentor-mentee role where you're just being intentional. And just saying like, hey, what would you think about this? And I tell you what, there's a lot of value in finding somebody that you want to emulate, or somebody that's been successful, somebody that you admire, somebody who you feel like has a lot of wisdom, who has figured it out, and whether you make it formal or not formal, just to naturally fall into a role where you're gleaning off of them and learning from them. It's really cool.
And then as we're wrapping up, I think one of my favorite ones, and we've mentioned this a few times, but here we are now. Verse 22, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. And you know what that's like, man, when your heart's broken or whatever, it's just hard to keep moving forward. But the antidote to that is a little bit of cheerfulness. And so finding out, I think part of it is knowing what the key to your cheerfulness is, I think is important. If it's hanging out with friends and family, if it's being lighthearted, if it's watching a funny movie, if it's a stand-up comedian, whatever. I was listening to an interview today with Nate Bargatze. Yeah. So it was an interview about how he, partly about how he writes his jokes or writes his stories and or develops his thing. And even that was funny. He delights me. I like the storyteller type comedians tremendously. And I got up this morning. Yesterday was a 14 and a half hour day for me. So from the time I got in the office until the time I left last night, it was a long day. And this is like the third, fourth long day in a row. And I'm just tired. So I got up this morning and I'm like, I don't want to go to the studio. I don't want to, right? And it was that kind of, it wasn't a broken spirit. It's more like a broken body at this point. I'm just tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but I get in the truck and then I saw, here's an interview I haven't seen or heard yet. And so I turned that on when I'm driving and I had a long drive. I had something else I needed to do before I came in.
Was he naturally funny?
And it was so funny. Yeah. One, he did a couple of his bits while he was talking about how he designs his bits. But then the other part of it is he's just a funny guy.
Right.
And he delights me. And so I come walking in the studio today going, man, I feel like $1 million. It was a 30-minute switch.
Yeah.
And it was 30 minutes. So knowing what the key is to your cheerfulness. Yeah. Cheerfulness is not joy. Right. So that's a different thing. But here, a cheerful heart is good medicine. It really does change your outlook. It changes your body. It changes your mind. It releases the right kind of endorphins on your brain to kind of lighten up the mood in a moment, as opposed to coming in being miserable and raining on everybody else's parade.
Yes, and it's been proven physically and health wise, everything else. Yeah, and you know what? Those are the kind of people that we want to be around. Yeah. Right? Like, have you ever been around somebody who's naturally cheerful? And you're just like, I think we have our good days, don't we?
We have our good days.
We have our good days. And so, it's definitely the kind of person to strive to be, right? Yeah. So, and there's a lot in here, too. It talks about the lying tongue, the crooked heart, quarreling. I mean, obviously there's a lot in here about being a fool and being around a fool.
He warns us again about not co-signing.
Yep.
Right. There's a lot of those things in here this time.
He even talks about bribes. Yeah. A bribe is like a lucky charm. Whoever gives will prosper. Anyway, there's a lot in there. So go back and read it and, just pick out whatever it is. That's why I love Proverbs, because you read it and one time you'll read it, something will jump out at you. And then depending on what you're going through, you read it again. Absolutely. And then something else will jump out at you based on your life situation, right? Yeah, you're just really looking at everyday life when you read the book of Proverbs. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Well, hey, that's our time. So hopefully we'll see you next time on the Bible Guys.